Could 2020 be the year of Queen Maxine? California Congresswoman Maxine Waters is a champion of the anti-Trump movement, Los Angeles rioters, and now this Sunday she's paying a visit to the Granite State, New Hampshire. That can only mean one thing, of course, given that it's a long way from her district. She's running for president.
Certainly the inauguration is a way of welcoming in someone to the presidency and honoring them and respecting them. I don't honor him, I don't respect him, and I don't want to be involved with it. And so I'm questioning the patriotism of all of those Republicans who are allowing this president to side with Putin.
I think that Jeff Sessions is very dangerous. I think he's a racist.
This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are. This is going to put us a little bit further on our way to what I've been calling for so long, and that is impeachment.
Larry Elder is a radio show host in Los Angeles, a proud son of that city. He knows Maxine Waters, and he joins us now for a preview of her presidential campaign. Larry, it's great to see you. Why
nice to see you
is
too.
it fair to assume if she's going to New Hampshire, all the way from Hancock Park, where she lives in L.A., that she's thinking about running for president?
Well, if she runs, she may have a few problems. Of the 535 lawmakers on D.C., Tucker, she's the only one, to my knowledge, who's written a letter to Fidel Castro urging him not to send back a woman who murdered a New Jersey state trooper, escaped, fled to Cuba. Congress passed a resolution urging Castro to return her. She wrote a letter to Castro. The woman who escaped is a former Black Panther. She likened her to a freedom fighter, accused her of being a victim of the criminal justice system, and urged Castro not to return her to America. The woman, Joanne Chesimard, remains at the top of New Jersey's most wanted list, and Maxine Waters urged Castro not to send her back. That's point one. Second one is she falsely accused the CIA of basically fomenting the crack cocaine epidemic in the 80s and the 90s in the inner city, a argument that's been debunked by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the LA Times. And, of course, she had a meeting with the then Secretary of Treasury, urging him during the financial meltdown to bail out minority-owned banks without informing him that she and her husband had a financial interest in one of said minority banks, for which she was investigated by the House for ethics violation, played the race card. The violation, therefore, went supernova. It is one of the reasons, Tucker, why one of the left-wing groups, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, constantly labels her as one of the most corrupt politicians in Washington, D.C.
Well, I can't speak to that, because I'm not an investigator, but she's certainly good with money, because she's been in office for 40 years, I think continuously, 40 years this year, and yet she lives in a $4.5 million house in one of the richest, one of the nicest neighborhoods in LA.
She's a shrewd stock investor.
How does she do that? Like, do you know the answer? Is it magic? I mean, how can I do something like that?
I'll just give you the Harry Truman answer. When you go into politics poor and you come out rich, you're stealing. And Tucker, we haven't even talked about her left-wing views, and they're no different than Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Nancy Pelosi, but she champions herself, Maxine Waters does, as a champion of the inner city. So her policies for inner-city black and brown people are particularly corrosive.
I know.
One of which, of course, is her opposition to vouchers. I went to a high school in the inner city, Tucker, called Crenshaw. If you saw the movie Boys in the Hood, that's my high school. Right now, 3% of the kids at that school can do math at grade level. But if you live across the street, you are mandated to send your kid to that school. Republicans want to give that person across the street a choice to say, hell no. Democrats want that person to send their child to that school no matter what. That alone is a reason that people ought to reconsider Maxine Waters, and black people in particular ought to reconsider their allegiance to people like Maxine Waters that are doing a great deal of damage to the inner city.
And if she runs for president, I hope you will be our Maxine Waters correspondent from L.A. Larry, great to see you tonight.
She will not get my vote. She won't get my vote.
Yeah, but you can cover her for us. You'll be our man on the scene. I would love that. Thank you. Larry Elder.
You got
it. Great to see you.
Bennett's accusation that he was a victim of police brutality, said the gun had been pulled on him, and that was excessive force.
Yeah, this is it's unfortunate, but let me start out the way I always do on these police-related incidents. And as you indicated, as a former nearly 4 decades in law enforcement, retired not even a week, but I'm familiar with these. I've investigated them. I've had them happen with people that I send out every day, my sheriff's deputies. But I always start out these conversations by saying 3 things, and this is important. Number 1, I was not there. Number 2, I don't know all the facts. And number 3, I caution people, let's not rush to judgment. Mm-hmm. And unlike a lot of people who are opining on this right now, I heard Colin Kaepernick say something. He was not there. He does not know all the facts, and he rushed to judgment. Now, I'll say this about Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett was there, obviously, but he doesn't know all the facts. Now, Michael Bennett went out and did exactly what he's accusing these law enforcement officers of doing. He prejudged these two police officers with no facts and no evidence. Now, let me tell you what this is really about with Michael Bennett. His ego was bruised. Here's a guy, NFL football player. He's a hell of a defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not going to take any of that away from him. But he's used to having people fawn all over him, you know, and with all the adulation and, oh, yeah, he's a big star. He's this, that, and the other. And he was humble that day. He was humble, unfortunately. But listen to his statement, and this is why I say what I do, because I don't have anything against Michael Bennett. I never met him. I wouldn't know him if he knocked on my door right now. I opened the door, I'd just see a big man. You notice I didn't say black man, a big man. But listen to this statement. The officers ignored my pleas, and instead told me to shut up and then took me to a nearby police car where I sat for what felt like an eternity until they apparently realized I was not a thug, common criminal, or an ordinary black man, but Michael Bennett, a famous professional football player. That's his problem. He knows this has nothing to do with race, but his ego was bruised. The nerve of him saying I wasn't an ordinary black man. What's wrong with ordinary black men? You see the arrogance of this guy? This is what his problem was. But, you know, and I saw the tape, and here's what I think about the tape. All right? The tape by itself, Larry, is irrelevant. It's meaningless. This is just one piece of evidence. It is a snippet of what will be a plethora of evidence, including witness statements, including more videotape. You know those casinos, they get every square inch of a casino is covered by video. So allow the law enforcement agency to do the investigation. They'll come out with a finding and they'll take the appropriate action. But I caution listeners with this as well. The first facts are those most subject to change. And I think we all remember, hands up, don't shoot.
Right.
It was a lie.
And Chief, we also have an individual, Michael Bennett, who has been protesting the national anthem, has talked about police brutality. So he's predisposed towards believing the worst possible thing when something happens.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. He's got a political agenda, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't begrudge, even Colin Kaepernick, I don't begrudge it. I just say don't bring that stuff. Don't use the NFL football field where I go to be entertained. I go to get away from politics. I go to get away from all this race-based politics, this identity politics, and all this. Enjoy an afternoon, watch people, highly trained, skilled athletes perform on the football field. Now, after that, when he gets done, he wants to take a shower. If he wants to, go on a local TV station or show up at a food pantry. By the way, you'll never find these guys, including Colin Kaepernick. You'll never find them in the hood talking to young black men about some of the lifestyle choices that they're making, the flawed lifestyle choices. No, this is all about Colin Kaepernick. This is all about Michael Bennett. And I just, they can do what they want, but I wish they wouldn't do that. And as long as they're going to enter into the political arena, then I'm going to slam them, just like everybody else gets to be slammed in a political arena, including David Clark.
My guest is Sheriff David Clark, former Sheriff David Clark, Milwaukee County. Sheriff, here's what Bennett said.
It's a traumatic experience for me, my family, and it sucks that the country that we live in now, sometimes you get profiled for the color of your skin, and it's a tough situation for me. Do I think every police officer is bad? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe there's some people out there that judge people on the color of their skin? I do believe that, and I'm just focused on trying to push forward and keep continuously championing the quest for justice for people, keep pushing equality for oppressed people, and that's just what I'm about, and I'll keep doing.
Sheriff?
You know, these guys, and God bless Michael Bennett. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but you know what, the guy's a buffoon because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He starts talking about oppressed people. What oppressed people, and how are they oppressed? How much money has he given from his rightly earned salary? How much has he given to food pantries? How much has he given to school choice programs? How much has he given to scholarships for young impoverished people to go to better schools, on and on and on? We never hear from Michael Bennet about these issues, but now he wants to talk about oppression. He's the furthest thing from it right now. And God bless him. He can say what he wants, but again, if you're going to get into the political arena and you're going to spar with me, you better come ready. And you know what? He's not ready for what I'm going to throw at him, because I just challenged him with some things, and he's not hearing this now, but he will, no doubt. And I want to respond to him. I will say, Michael, what are you doing to improve the lives of other people? Tell me what you're doing. All you're doing is spewing talking points.
What relevance is it that the two officers involved are Hispanic? The undersheriff Kevin McMahill made a big deal out of that. What's your take on why he said that?
Well, I know what he was trying to get at, and I don't have a problem with it, but I think it's irrelevant. I think it is. Mm-hmm. I gathered that from watching the video, but I didn't even bring it out. But Michael Bennet prejudged these guys. Michael Bennet said, do I think all police officers are bad? No, but do I believe that some people, police officers, target people because of the color of their skin? Yes. Well, he targeted those two police officers because of the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. This is that identity politics that he knows little about, but he's heard about, and so he's dabbing in it. But the problem is, when you're not fully informed of what you're talking about, you're going to sound stupid. I don't care if those officers were Hispanic. I don't care if they were white. I don't care if they were black. If those were two black officers, I'll tell you right now, Bennett would have had the same problem, because he felt humble that day. This big star, remember what he said in his statement? I'm no ordinary